What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Keep It Hoop YouTube channel. All right, so today I wanted to talk about ESPN's list that everybody's been talking about nonstop, and it's their list ranking the 25 best players under 25 solely based off of potential, which I do think is something that some people glossed over, and I know a lot of people had complaints about the list. I do as well. I don't think it's a perfect list. There are some things that I would change, but I do think that some people thought that it was just who's the best right now, who's having the best season, who's had the best career so far, and it's none of those things, right? It's based off of just potential, and that changes things up, right? But let's get started. Luka at number one, no problem here. His ability to score at pretty much any level, the 3 point line, mid range, in the paint, ability to get to the free throw line and make shots there consistently, performs when it matters, right? Clutch shots after clutch shots, game winners, performed in the playoffs when he got there, and his ability to get his teammates shots consistently, right? Now, could his defense be better? Yes. Is that a room for growth? As he continues to, play more years in the NBA? Yes. Could he become an even more consistent shooter? Yes. Can he cut down on the turnovers? Yes. But the crazy thing with Luka is he could develop very minimally or just not develop at all for the rest of his career, and he could still end up being the best player on this list. Because right now he's the best player on this list, obviously, right? But again, he could just not develop at all anymore, and he could still end up being the best player, which is crazy. Just shows you just how good he is. But again, at 22, the things he's doing is insane, and as he continues to get stronger and learns the game, it's the potential is crazy, right? Because you think most NBA players reach their prime around 26, 27, 28, 29. Like he has 4 or 5 more years until his prime, right? And that's when you're at your physical peak, as well as just being able to, look at the game differently, have everything slowed down. And the fact that, he has 4 or 5 years for the game to slow down even more for him, it's scary what he might do to the league. You have Zion at number two. I don't think a big complaint there either. He was a bit slow, in the 20 or so games he played as rookie year, but he came into this season focused, more in shape. I think he's just more healthy. He also talked about being a little bit not nervous, but playing around everybody else on his team in the past. But he came into this season just more confident. I think they run the offense a bit more through and around him. There's even lineups where he's the ball handler and creating plays for other people. So we've already seen, this season his aggressiveness going up. We've already, we knew about the explosiveness and ability to finish around the rim, but again, the where he picks his spots, the ability to start creating plays for other people, right? Like as he is right now, kind of like Luka, he's already explosive and really good. And the improvements are going to come from being able to shoot the jump shot consistently. And whether that's from the mid range or 3 point, whatever range he can incorporate into his game, it's going to improve, his overall game and his ability to get to the rim and draw fouls. I do think that he can also improve on defense because I think we saw a lot of explosive defensive plays at Duke, whether it's the injuries or kind of just the pace of the game. He hasn't been the same impactful guy on defense, but if he can do those things, right, become a better jump shooter, and he doesn't even have to be knocked down, but if he could knock down 30% of his threes and just take them, right, and become the force he was at Duke on the defensive end, I mean, he's right up there with Luka. And you can even make the argument that if you go off of potential, he could be number one because both of these guys have the potential to be the best player in the league, right? And Luka's closer to it right now. But if Zion checks off all the boxes in terms of the things he can work on, because he has more room to grow than Luka right now, in my opinion. Like Luka's already, he's gonna get better. But I think the things, because he does so many things well already, that I think that he's closer to his possible peak and maximum potential than Zion is, because I think Zion right now is still going off of a lot of strength, explosiveness, athleticism, right? And not that he's not talented or skilled, but once he gets those things even more refined, the ball handling, the passing, the shooting, I think he could even overpass Luka. But right now, Luka 1, Zion 2, I have no problem with that. Now, this is where things get tricky and where people start to have their arguments or gripes. LaMelo Ball at number 3. Now, I think LaMelo's ceiling is really high. He came into the season and after really a couple weeks, just looked super comfortable in the NBA game. And he's one of those guys where I think being in the NBA benefited his game. One, the mental aspect. People questioned his maturity and focus. Came into the league from day one, seemed super professional. Nobody said a bad thing about him, in the locker room or just in the front office. He came in day one, looking to be one of the vocal leaders, and his game on the floor, I think, also helped from being in the NBA. You have a lot more guys who are athletic, more shooters, and I think just playing in that faster pace, spread out offense really helped his game. And there's still things he can work on, right? Shot selection, his defense, um, being a more consistent shooter, which his shooting has already been better than I think most people advertised or thought it would be in his rookie season. But he can still get better at that. But again, what he's doing at 19, how he can read the defense, really facilitate and really be the floor general and just take complete charge of an offense. And the thing I like about him is he doesn't really just hunt assists. He just makes the right play. And whether that's a hockey assist or just an extra pass, he's really just a culture changer. And what he's been able to do in his short time in the NBA has been ridiculous. And I really do think he also has the type of potential to be, the number one player on a contending team, a guy who as he continues to develop, another guy that can be in the conversation for the best player in the league. Now, I would personally have him number 4, which is where Donovan Mitchell is. But that's not to say Donovan Mitchell should be number 3. I personally have Donovan Mitchell way lower. I'm a Donovan Mitchell fan. I have nothing against him. I think he's had a solid season this year, leading Utah to the record they have right now, being the leading scorer, and his playoff performance last year was super fun to watch. That being said, I think if you're going off of potential, I just don't think how you can have him top 5. I really don't, because you look at potential, and I mean, whenever you talk about potential, it's difficult because it's all speculation, right? So it's fine, but that speculation still has to be backed with something, or else it's kind of just a guessing game. Um, and with potential, it's already half of it already is a guessing game. But I think if you have, it's different because I think if it's, let's say it's just all rookies, then it's more speculative. But if you're looking at guys who have already had several years in the league, you at least have some information, some numbers, some statistics to back up things like potential, right? And if you look at Donovan Mitchell, his numbers really haven't improved too much. Now his scoring, I'll try to have the graphics or the stats on the screen at some point, but Donovan Mitchell's stats just right. His points per game has increased from 20 to 25, right? And so an increase of 5. But if you look at everything else, rebounding, assists, turnovers, field goal percentage, 3-point percentage, nothing's really changed. Now his rookie season was really good for a rookie, and he had his, even in the playoffs it was good. And ever since, he's been a very solid, good player. I'm not saying Donovan Mitchell isn't good, but if the only thing he's improved on over his, few years in the NBA is points per game, and it's by 5, I just feel like there's so many other guys on this list who have shown way more improvement. Now, if they think that Donovan Mitchell is just kind of stalled out, but like hasn't taken the next step, and that because he hasn't improved yet, that his rate of improvement could skyrocket and he could improve a lot more, I guess if that's your reasoning, then fine. But I just don't think that that's realistic, right? And I think that, and I spoke to Osiris about this, who's been on this show or on our videos and podcasts before, and he talked about how usually stars don't stay stagnant and then at the end of their career really jump in terms of improvement. Some role players do, but stars usually don't, right? And Donovan Mitchell, I think, is a case of a guy like this is just who he is, a guy who's going to get you 25 points a game, but a guy who's only going to get you, 4 rebounds, 4 assists, and a guy who can anchor, I think, a good regular season team. I don't know if he can be the best player on a finals contending team. We'll find out this year in the playoffs, I guess. But yeah, I mean, I really don't think he's an elite level player, and I don't think he has the potential to be either. Because again, in his few years in the NBA, we really haven't seen that much improvement. I had a Twitter, I wouldn't say argument, but back and forth with someone who brought up his playoff performances. Even then, right? So last year in the bubble, insane series against Denver, right? An historical performance. One, and I'm not discrediting his performance saying that it's a fluke or whatever, but I want to keep in mind that guys like Jamal Murray, TJ Warren also had insane performances in the bubble. And granted, TJ Warren has been injured for most of the season. Jamal Murray's, while his season has been, solid and it's improved, he's come back down to earth, and so is Donovan Mitchell. And if you look across the board in the NBA during the bubble, teams, all kinds of players, everybody was having inflated stats, scoring wise, shooting percentage wise, 3-point makes. So I do think it benefited some players. I'm not saying it was easy what happened in the bubble. I'm not saying that it was a fluke or that Donovan Mitchell had an easy route, scoring 50, right? Still super impressive what he did, but I do want to put that into perspective. I also want to talk about the fact that, his second playoff run, right? Because we talked about last year, we talked about his rookie year beating OKC. That playoff performance was nice as well. But his second playoff run, I think he scored like 21 points per game, but he shot well below 40% from the field. I think he shot below 30% from three, and then averaged 4 turnovers and 3 assists per game. So it's not like he's this insane player who, once the playoff comes around, he just turns it up consistently, right? That's 2 out of 3 playoff performances where he's improved on his regular season, but still, that is now, right, 2 out of 3 playoff series, which is, I think when I looked back, it was 18 out of 23 games where he's again had really good stats. But I'm going to take the 270 somewhat games that he's played over his whole career as I think a better measuring stick for how much he can, will, and might improve in the future. And I just don't see it. Whereas you look at a guy like Jason Tatum, he's improved way more drastically, right? Points per game, rebounds, assists, even the defense. Jason Tatum came in as a minus defender, and then under Brad Stevens and just that whole culture became, I would say, even above average defender. Now he's not locked down; he still has lapses, but I would say a solid average to an above average defender now. And on top of that, he's and his playmaking level is probably the same as Donovan Mitchell now. And I don't know how much more Jason Tatum could get better, but I'm taking the guy who's increased his assist numbers drastically over his career over a guy who's stayed at the same number, because it's not like Jason Tatum went up one year and came back down. He's consistently improving. So if you just go by history, which often repeats itself, there's a good indication that he either stays the same next year or improves on that. The same thing goes for his scoring, his rebounding, and his defense, which again, I just can't say the same thing for Donovan Mitchell. So with that all being said, I would have Jason Tatum third. I would have LaMelo Ball fourth. And then let's see where I would put Donovan Mitchell, because I think De'Aaron Fox, while I don't think he's improved at the same rate as Jason Tatum, and I don't think he's at the same level of player as Jason Tatum is, I would still have him probably fifth over Donovan Mitchell, again, if we're going by potential. I think De'Aaron Fox's ceiling is higher than Donovan Mitchell's. All right, and a lot of that just comes from, again, I think Donovan Mitchell kind of, I don't want to say he's peaked, because I think he still has room for improvement here and there, but I for the most part, I think this is who he is. Whereas I think Jason Tatum can evolve into a top 5 player in the NBA. I think De'Aaron Fox can be a top 10 player in the NBA. I don't see that for Donovan Mitchell, right? Ben Simmons at 7. This is a tough one because, right, you can say the same thing about him as I said for Zion. Now, Ben Simmons is already an All-NBA type defender. Obviously a playmaker, can rebound. and he can improve a lot as a scorer. Um, I don't know if he will because I think it's a mindset thing. Like we've seen Zion at least been dominant defensively and be willing to shoot threes at times. Ben Simmons never really shoots. So like I don't know what his outlook will be. I think that still his ceiling is higher than Donovan Mitchell's. I think Devin Booker is kind of like Donovan Mitchell in that I think this is kind of who he is, right? Do I think he can continue to become a more efficient scorer, which is something he already excels at? Yes. Do I think that he could become a better defender, better playmaker, especially now playing with Chris Paul? A lot you can learn from there. Also, yes. But I don't think that he's gonna take too many more jumps. Um, but I would probably still have him over Donovan Mitchell if we're looking at improvements or potential, right? Um, Bam Adebayo. I could possibly, I mean, you could argue him over Devin Booker. I think his rate of growth has been impressive as well. Um, I think even in the playoffs, we saw a lot of growth, and we saw at the beginning of this season his improved scoring and just being more aggressive. I think was impressive to see. But I don't really have a problem with these three guys being in this order. Um, SGA, I know some people had him lower, some people had him higher. I think SGA is a curious case because he's put up some really good numbers over the last 2 years. Um, casual fans won't even get a full understanding of I think how good he has been and could be because let's be honest, nobody really watches Thunder games unless you're just a really big NBA fan or basketball fan, or unfortunately a Thunder fan. But yeah, I mean, I think SGA around here is a solid ranking. I do think that he's another guy who could continue to improve. I think SGA is a guy who can improve on really all all aspects of the game. Defense obviously not a strong suit of his. Can continue to become a better playmaker. Over his career, he's been more of a scoring kind of guard. And his 3-point shot has improved, and I think that's something that if he can continue to be consistent in, he could be really good. And a guy who I think if he gets the right team around him, and he continues to improve at this rate, he's another guy who could be a top 10, top 15 player in the league. Brandon Ingram, I think that he is. I mean, I think this is a fair rating around here. Like, I would personally, you can argue, it might even depend on which day you ask me, but I might have Jaylen Brown over Brandon Ingram just because I think that his ability to, really take the best guy on defense, and his improvement as well, even from last year to this year, has been really fun to watch. Whereas Brandon Ingram, I mean, he's improved over the last 2 years, but I think it's been a smaller improvement than Jaylen Brown. Now, again, you can make the same argument for Jaylen Brown. Maybe he's already done the majority of his growth and improvement, and maybe his improvement starts to plateau a bit. And you can sure, if you want to make that argument, that's fine. But I still think at 24, and he's a very cerebral guy and player, so I think he can continue to improve. Um, again, I think right now Brandon Ingram, Jaylen Brown, pretty interchangeable, but Brandon Ingram also has that insane wingspan. He's improved a lot as well. I think he can continue to become a better defender and playmaker. So yeah, but I don't really have a problem with these two being here. Jamal Murray at 13. I have MPJ over Jamal Murray, and you can even make the argument of Michael Porter Jr. being in the top 10 because I think now that he's fully healthy, even as the third guy in Denver, and I think you can kind of put an asterisk to that because you can argue he's getting a lot of these good looks because he's the third option and people don't have to game plan around him. And obviously playing with a guy like Jokic definitely helps, right? You get a lot more easier shots than if he's the guy, which some of the other guys in the top 10 have to be for their teams. But I think his potential is ridiculous, right? He's already improved as a defender and rebounder throughout the course of the season. Mike Malone's been very vocal of that. His ability to pretty much shoot over anyone he wants to. All right, never seen a shot he doesn't like, but shot selection has been an issue at times. But even then, still shooting a ridiculously high percentage because of his ability to shoot. On top of, I mean, you pair that with his size, his ability to get to the rim, his above average to good explosiveness and athleticism and ability to finish at the rim. I think he's shooting something like 80% at the rim, 0 to 3 feet this year. And granted, a lot of that is assisted and coming off of Jokic passes. But even then, shows you his ability to read the defense, cut, is becoming a smarter basketball player by the day. And at 22, right before 23, I think his offensive game is insane, right? And as he, and I think with him, it's more so just opportunity. Like if he had played on OKC this year, right, just as an example, I think his numbers could be really crazy. His percentages would obviously be down, but I think he could be averaging 25-ish points. I really think that he has that kind of talent. And I think his if you go again, just going by potential, I think it's higher than Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray is a solid player, but I think he is kind of like Donovan Mitchell. I think this is kind of just the player he is. Both of them are going to continue to improve. I think increase their scoring numbers a little by little. But if you're looking at their passing and rebounding, doesn't really change much. Jamal Murray has become a better defender over the last couple of years, so I will give him that. But neither of them have really taken that big step, really. And sure, in the playoffs, again, both of these guys play really well in the playoffs. But if you're looking at just the whole season and their whole career, I don't think there's been too much of consistent growth, at least when compared to some of the other guys. Ja over Trae Young. I don't know. I think I still have Trae Young over, and you can. Trae might be closer to a finished product than Ja is, but I think Trae, even at that, like if I'm looking at Trae at his full on potential, even if he's closer to that than Ja is, I still take that version of Trae over Ja, right? And Trae's a guy who I could even have over Jamal Murray. I think he could be higher on the list as well. I do think the thing with Trae is I think he's gotten a little bit of a bad rap, bad rep in the league, or at least not by players per se, but maybe by the media and fans. People don't really like the way he plays. He obviously doesn't play any defense. He flops a lot, looking for foul calls. Doesn't always have the best shot selection. But I don't think you can deny his talent either. Puts up good numbers. A highly, highly intelligent player playing off of the pick and roll. Great passer. A great floater. Obviously, the jump shot's there. So yeah, I mean, I would have him higher than Ja because I think Ja, while if Ja figures out how to be a consistent jump shooter, and adds some more muscle and stays healthy, I think he could be a really good player as well. But I wouldn't put him. Even then, I don't think his highest of highs reaches a Trae Young, in my opinion, at least. Mikal Bridges over Sabonis. Now Bridges has improved a lot this year, so I will give him that, and he's been a big part of Phoenix and their, very successful season. Right, his ability to shoot, solid cutter, can finish at the rim, and a good defender, very good player. But he is 24 and a half, right? So he's closer to that 25 age. I wouldn't have him even over Anthony Edwards. I think him and Sabonis are both guys who have kind of plateaued. Again, not to say that they won't improve, but I don't think that their rate of improvement will be as high as Anthony Edwards, who at 19, and especially if you look at his month of March, just went off. I think he started to figure it out. The game is starting to slow down a bit. He just looked a bit more in control, took better shots, while remaining aggressive. Yeah, I mean, I would have him again if you're going off of potential. I would have him over Bridges and Sabonis, and possibly even Jamal Murray. Right? I think wherever Murray is going to be is pretty much where I'm putting Donovan Mitchell because I do think both of those guys. Again, no hate on them, no disrespect. Despite being very good players already, I just don't think that they're going to improve that much. All right, so I think I would have Anthony Edwards over Bridges, Sabonis, and probably Mitchell and Murray, to be honest. DeAndre Ayton. DeAndre Ayton is another interesting guy on the list because he is playing in the wrong era. Now, He is only averaging 14.5 points per game. You can see on the graphic or on the page right here. But he's not getting a lot of shots on that team, and he sacrificed a lot of his individual stats for the better of the team. Right, that team gets a lot more perimeter shots. You have guys like Jay Crowder and Mikal Bridges who are taking away shots from Ayton. Ayton's been pretty mature, which is something that people questioned when he was coming out of college, but he's been pretty mature. He's improved as a defender. He's kind of just doing whatever the team needs him to. He's a guy that, if he was playing in a different city again, I'm just going to keep bringing up Oklahoma because that's a team where you could probably get a lot of empty stats and you're going to get opportunities if you're a young player, right? But if he was on that OKC team, his numbers would look really good, right? Probably averaging like 22 and 12. But, um, I think that he does have potential. I think he could improve, if he ever implements some kind of outside shot at a consistent rate. I think he could become a better defender still. And those things would definitely catapult him as a player and his value. But, I think there's a solid range for him. Tyrese Halliburton, I like a lot. I think his ability to score and just be a ball handler is even better than I expected coming out of college. And I thought he should go top 5, right? I mean, I thought he was going to go to Atlanta, but I thought he'd be a little bit more of a defense and facilitate and just make the right play kind of guy. But he's been really good for that Kings team, and him and Fox, it's a really bright future that Sacramento has going forward. You had the backcourt of the future, so that'd be really interesting and exciting for that team. But yeah, I mean, I like Halliburton going forward. He doesn't have insane athleticism, and he's already surprised people, which is why he might be this low on the list. But at this rate, you could see a situation where he ends up being an all-star or borderline all-star kind of guy, and definitely a bright future for him. John Collins is I'm not really sure because he puts up some solid numbers, but I think he's kind of a younger, better version of a guy like Andre Drummond. Different types of players, obviously, but I think John Collins a lot of times has empty numbers. Because you look at 18 and 7 and he can shoot the three, he's athletic, but nobody can really find out if he's a forward or center. And there's a lot of times where, like, again, he's putting up numbers, but he doesn't seem to have the craziest impact or influence on a game, right? And could he get better? Yeah, 100%. Could continue to get stronger, develop more of a post game, which would allow him to rely less on just pick and rolls and pick and pops. And again, he can improve as a defender. But, I guess out of 25 people, if you wanted to rank him 22nd, I wouldn't really have too much of an argument there. Now, Jared Allen being 23 was a surprise for me, admittedly. He's a very solid player, right? A guy that I'm sure a lot of teams would love. Um, a good rim protector, a guy who can finish, good rim runner. But to be 23rd, like, I don't think that we haven't seen any type of offensive game really. And I think he's just gotten better at the things he's already good at, which are, again, rim rolling and rim protection. But I don't think it's at a rate where, like, I don't think if he reached his highest potential, right? Like, I still don't see him being better than Lonzo Ball. Or I would put Lonzo Ball higher. I would put Lonzo Ball higher than Jared Allen. Probably higher than John Collins. Maybe even higher than DeAndre Ayton and Tyrese Halliburton. But I'm a big believer in Lonzo, so maybe I'm biased. But I think Lonzo showed this year that as his three-point shot has improved, and he's now a solid free throw shooter. Like, he's a very solid player, man. Another culture changer, makes the right play, plays hard on defense, gets the ball out, good passer. People like playing with him. Still an above-average athlete at his position, right? Can finish around the rim decently. And does he still have weaknesses in his game? Yes, but they're not holes anymore. Like, he's not a liability anymore. And as he continues to get better, right, he's only 23, right? So he has a big summer coming up this season, or this offseason. Where is he going to go? Are the Pelicans going to keep him? Where he ends up playing next season might have, an impact on his numbers and how he continues to develop. But I'm very high on Lonzo Ball. And I think his potential, which is the word of the day, his potential is higher than some of the other guys. Colin Sexton, putting up solid numbers, right? and he's improved over the course of his career, becoming a more efficient scorer. Um, he can improve on defense still, and he can definitely improve as a playmaker. But I think, out of the guys we talked about under 25, very solid case to be in the top 25. And, I would even put him over his teammate, Jared Allen. So if you look at some of the other guys, right, who came up with this list, you see some interesting things, right? Jason Tatum 13 here, which is I don't know, is beside me. That's kind of insane. I do like Michael Porter Jr. being third. Again, I'm very high on MPJ. I think he should be top 10. Um, RJ Barrett, Knicks fan, love to see it. I do think RJ should be in the top 25. I would put RJ instead of Jared Allen. I think that RJ has shown the ability to knock down the 3-point shot over the last few months. He's continued to improve as a driver and finisher going right, which is something that people questioned coming into the NBA. He's become a better defender under Thibs. And yeah, I think that, Thibodeau has that whole team playing kind of better, just overperforming. But I think RJ, without being a high usage, crazy high, or crazy inefficient guy, has had a really solid season quietly. And I do believe in him. I think he can continue to improve as a shot creator for himself and for other people. His defense and his shot, if they continue to improve, I think he can be an all-star type player. Um, let's see. Jason Tatum third here. You have Jamal Murray being over Devin Booker and SGA here is kind of nuts. Again, I really don't think he has that much improvement left to do. Donovan Mitchell fifth here too. Where did Donovan Mitchell sixth here? So I guess a lot of guys are high on Donovan Mitchell continuing to improve or improving more because again, I don't think he's improved at that crazy of a rate so far. MPJ at 18, I think, is kind of low. OG Anunoby is a really interesting one. I do think that he showed improvement. I think with him, it's more of a opportunity thing, right? He's playing around Lowry and DeRozan, then Lowry and Kawhi. And then you have now Fred VanVleet and Pascal. So he's never going to be the main guy. And I don't know how much growing / improvement you even see statistically with a guy like that. But if he was ever to go to a different team, which I don't think he will, at least in his prime, because I know Toronto loves him, but that's a situation where a change of scenery could improve, could lead to more improvements or at least faster improvements. Emmanuel Quickly, love to see it. I don't know if he belongs there, but I do think he has a decent, chance to improve at a good rate. Another guy who I think just hasn't had the full opportunity that other rookies have had, or even just young players have had. You have Derrick Rose, you have Elfrid Payton, you had Austin Rivers earlier on the season, you have Alec Burks also taking some of the 1-2 minutes, RJ Barrett taking the 2 minutes. So you have a lot of guards on that Knicks team. And Emmanuel quickly hasn't gotten the most consistent playing time, but in his time, he's shown glimpses of being able to be a knockdown shooter. Has a really good floater game, solid defender, can create plays for other people. I do think he has a bright future. I didn't expect to see him on this 25 list, but very happy nonetheless. Keldon Johnson, a guy who's been pretty inconsistent this year, but again, another guy who's shown flashes. And him along with DeJounte Murray. The Spurs have no clear superstar guy that they can build around. Again, no Lucas or Zions or Trae Youngs, but I do think that they have a solid core of young players, and if they can get that one big name, superstar kind of either player or a guy that could pan out to be that kind of player in one of these drafts, I think they're in a pretty good position. Okay, so you have LaMelo, Tatum, again Mitchell really high. I like De'Aaron Fox being there. Bam is 11th here. Ja's a little bit higher. I like Jamal Murray being lower on this list. Anthony Edwards is higher on this list. MPJ I think is too low on this list. I think Jared Allen, again, I wouldn't have him there, but good to see RJ Barrett. 2 out of, I guess, 4 lists. So overall thoughts, I think that people overreacted to a degree on LaMelo being third. I think that I would have him fourth-ish. I think that people looked over or just didn't understand that this was based off of potential. That being said, I do think that either the way they ranked was just weird and inconsistent, or they just didn't really get it right, because Bobby Marks, who did the main list, Um, Again, I don't really see like how you can argue Donovan Mitchell being fourth over Jason Tatum, over De'Aaron Fox, over even a guy like, SGA or Michael Porter Jr., at least in my eyes, because I think all those guys have shown way more improvement over their careers than Donovan Mitchell has. Again, not saying Donovan Mitchell is a bad player, not saying he won't improve, but I think the other guys have shown more improvement and have more room for growth. But yeah, I mean, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know your thoughts on it. You can comment below or tweet us. Um, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. Links will be in the description below for our social media pages, so be sure to follow us there. We'll be back tomorrow with another video, so we will see you guys again then. Peace.